Hello everyone, I'm Luca Ferranti indeed, and today I will talk about the JuliaCon Proceedings. But first I would like to clarify that despite I am the one person talking, this is not a solo project, it's not me alone. For example, with Ludovic Räss, other editor, we worked on this presentation. We have a whole editorial team, so I'm just like the messenger. But you can shoot me, don't shoot the others, because the mess up will be my own. So, first of all, what is JuliaCon Proceedings? Well, as the name says, it's the peer-reviewed journal of the JuliaCon conference. And in this talk, I will explain about why we have that, what was the motivation, how it works, and how people can get involved. So this is the website that you can see here. So we have this very flashy website, which was not working a few minutes ago, but now it's up again. And yeah. So why do we have JuliaCon Proceedings? Well, first of all, JuliaCon was inspired by the Journal of Open Source Software, JOSS. And if you go to the JOSS website, I think they have a very cool quote where they say, in an ideal world, we wouldn't exist, JOSS says. Because without taking a stand, or good or bad, in academia, you need papers often. So, and without papers, you can struggle proceedings in your career. However, often people who work on research software, develop research software which is used by other researchers, they don't get that much recognition for it. They don't get a paper to be cited. So JOSS, the Journal of Open Source Software, was invented to cure this symptom, this issue of people working on research software used by many, but not getting recognition in academia. So this was the motivation for JOSS. And JuliaCon Proceedings has a very similar philosophy. However, I would say in an ideal world, we would still exist simply because people enjoy coming to JuliaCon and writing papers. So we have a lot of people coming from academia doing research software, and we wanted to give them an opportunity, a mean to get more recognition in academia and to give them opportunity that presenting at JuliaCon can help them advance in their career, like collect citation metrics and so on and so on. So our proceedings journal is official, so to speak, in the sense we have official code, we are peer-reviewed, and when people publish in the JuliaCon Proceedings journal, it's indexed by Google Scholar so that it can bump your H-index if you're interested in that. It gets found, you get a DOI, so it's official journal in all possible ways. Yeah, and as I was mentioning, I'm not alone doing that. We have an editorial team of 5 people, and I'm Luca Ferranti, the second one. Then we have Mathieu from France, Dimitri, Nikos, and Ludovic. So we don't have that many submissions. We have 5 editors at the moment. It has been enough. And then some statistics. We have around 86 papers published and 18 papers under review at the moment. So we are much, much smaller than JOSS. And also our journal was started in 2019. So since 2019, these numbers. We have had almost around 200 reviewers. And maybe the metrics that everyone is asking, is interested about, how long does it take to get published in JuliaCon Proceedings? Well, let's just say that our review process.gl sometimes can have some pre-compilation time, because we are all volunteers-based, so sometimes things happen in life and things get delayed, but we strive to get a publication within 2 months, similar to JOSS. We have this 8 weeks round period, which we strive for, but sometimes things get a bit slower, unfortunately. And in terms of more technical details, how our proceedings work. So everything is automated, and we want to make the review process as easy and enjoyable for people. So a bit less bureaucracy, less overhead than traditional journals. So everything happens on GitHub. Similar to JOSS, everything is fully open. So the review process is open. Everyone can see who was the reviewer, what the reviewer said, how the author replied. So fully open, fully transparent. And yeah, on GitHub. Then we actually use the same code of JOSS, so the same infrastructure of JOSS. We have a very strict collaboration with them. They helped us set up everything a lot. And we had a technical revamp in late 2023. So before we were using this old Widom bot, which was JOSS' previous bot, and then we had this technical revamp to use the new editorial bot, which is allegedly better. And so we revamped the website, revamped the app, fixed a bunch of bugs, and so on and so on. Then, to give more in details, then this is my last theoretical slide, so to speak. Then we will go around and have a more hands-on tour of what we have and what one needs to do do a submission in JuliaCon. So here I highlighted the most important repositories of our infrastructure. So the first one is this JuliaCon submission.gl, this template which lives in the JuliaCon organization on GitHub, and this is the LaTeX template for the submission. So different from JOS, we don't use Markdown, we use LaTeX, because a lot of people at JuliaCon are pretty like, you know, math heavy, math hungry in their papers, so we need a bit better support. So we use the LaTeX template. There was a talk last year from Patrick Altmaier about making a copy of this template in Quarto. So it's a bit work in progress, but ideally soon we will have also the opportunity to publish in Quarto if you don't want to use LaTeX or support simple Markdown. And if someone is interested in Tipst, wants to support Tipst, ping me and we can arrange that. Then we have this proceedings reviews repository where, as the name suggests, all the reviews happen. So all the reviews are as an issue in this repository. And the papers repository, oops, here should be a dash, where we have the PDFs of the paper and the metadata as XML, which is used to load the data in the website. And finally, our website itself, the web app, actually lives under JOS, the JOS repository. So in the Open Journals organization JOS repository, we have this JuliaCon branch where all our gigantic Ruby code for the whole app lives. So yeah, now we can have a short tour a bit. So as I was saying, this is the template for the paper. So the first thing, if you want to write a paper, would be to use this template, fork the repository and start writing. At the moment we only have LaTeX. Yeah, we currently use LaTeX Make for compiling. Before the revamp, we were using some old version which apparently disappeared from the internet. It's actually the only thing I never managed to find in the internet. Now with the revamp, we have a bit more stable, like Docker image, so you can also check, like, if you want to get the exact same compilation environment, you can run in a Docker image. So this would be the first step if you want to publish to the paper, to go to this repository, take the template, write the paper, and also importantly, the paper in general should, if you are presenting a package, the paper should live in the same repository of the package, which is the same rule of JOS basically, because JOS publishes only software, so the paper is a subset in the paper. Then you can choose, some people don't want to have in the main branch so that it doesn't get downloaded every time they install the package, so you can have in a separate branch if you want. Then in JuliaCon, since we also have a more like academic, traditional academic audience, often we also have traditional research paper in the more traditional sense. For this, in JuliaCon, opposed to JOS, we also allow like separate repositories. Like if you're not proposing a new software, but just like doing, but doing some experiments on that. So yeah, that's maybe a difference. Then after that, you would go to the JuliaCon website, which is this proceedings.juliacon.org, and you need to log in using the ORCID, so you need the ORCID identifier. Once you log in with it, you can make a submission. And what happens once you make a submission is that it will appear to us as editor in this dashboard, which I'm not now showing because we have some unpublished stuff still. So it will appear to us, and then we will start the review process. And when we start the review process, we would go to this proceedings review repository, and here this repository basically has only issues, and all the issues here are reviews or pre-reviews. So the first step would be a pre-review, and during the pre-review the editor will look for reviewers, and once the reviewers are found, we will start the review. And then in the review, if I take maybe a concluded one. In the review process, the reviewers will discuss with the author, give feedback, and so on and so on. So it's a very constructive, iterative process, a back and forth. We, in a way, funnily, we don't reject that much because our scope of the journal is not to give an assessment, good, bad, but to help people improve the world so that in the end everything becomes good. So it's a bit paradoxal that we don't have rejection rate. But yeah. So here we have this editorial bot which does some automatic checks. So for example, checks that all the references have a good DOI and so on. And then reviewers and author can discuss. And the bot will generate a review checklist for each reviewer. And then the reviewer will check the software, check the paper, give a feedback, and so on and so on. And once the process has converged to the good and the review is completed, the editor will pull the trigger. And when that happens, we have this other repository, these proceedings papers, where all the papers are stored. So each folder is a submission, a paper, and this will contain the PDF of the final paper and an XML file, which is used for rendering the information on the website. So if we check the website, here we have a list of papers, and all these info, all this metadata here is rendered from that XML file. And a thing to notice is that I said our process is fully transparent, all the reviews are open, so you can also see like the reviewers in the final paper. So in a way also reviewers get credit for having reviewed. That could be a way of seeing it. Yeah. Yeah, and in terms of next timeline, we generally start the review after the JuliaCon. So if you present at JuliaCon 2025, after the conference, we will make an announcement, hey, if you present at JuliaCon, you can submit a paper. The timeline is still a bit work in progress, but around like late fall 2025, we will open the submission, then everyone can submit, and later 2025, early 2026, we will start the review process for the 2025 batch. And if you want to help, we need a lot of volunteers because we get some papers and everyone has limited time, so we need help. So if you want, please make sure to submit as a reviewer, volunteer as reviewer. So we have this gigantic button, volunteer as review. It's a short form asking you for some keywords of what you're confident reviewing about, and then you are a reviewer. And then we will ask you to help. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully hopefully if you didn't know about the journal, now you know, and hopefully a lot of people will submit and we can grow the journal. And if you have any questions, please ask.
Yeah, I think this is very important, and this is great to see that, and yeah, it's really important. And I'm wondering, like, I mean, this is completely free, which is great, but then what happens if there are some, like, does it just depend on one person? Like, I don't know, like the head of the project, if he leaves, then what happens?
Yeah,
I'm
so
just wondering that.
yeah, so excellent question. So we don't have a bus factor of 1, likely. So as I showed, at the moment we have 5 editors, and also in JOS, because JOS is much bigger, they have like a more stratified hierarchy of like editor-in-chief, editor, and so on. Here we only have 5 editors, and we all have admin rights. So if any of us gets hit by bus, the other 4 are able to keep pushing. And yeah, and also like for the more like technical deployment part, we get a lot of help from the YOS people themselves, like deploying the app, maintaining the app, the database, so they also have access to it and they can help us if needed. So yeah, we don't have a bus factor of 1, but bus factor of 5 at the moment, which is acceptable.
So my question is regarding so you open up the submissions after the conference ends. And obviously, it'll be very important to the journal and the conference that many people who present submit. I'm just wondering, based on previous conferences, do you know like what the yield rate is for people submitting journals based on who gave presentations? Yeah, so we are still a bit like in transient phase because we had like this technical revamp that we needed to do, and that of course like affected the number because the app wasn't working, so people weren't submitting, and then 1 year later they didn't care about submitting again. But I think we get a few like tens of submission from the main JuliaCon, a couple of tens. So great. Thank you. Yeah. Is there anything else? Okay, let's give our speaker one more round of applause.